It is 2:13 in the morning, and your phone is already vibrating off the table. Not a ring. 3 hard pulses. The specific pattern the palace reserves for when something has already gone wrong, and they need you moving right now. You are dressed before your eyes fully open. Stethoscope. Penlight. Badge. Your hands run through the routine on their own. Muscle memory from being yanked out of sleep into crisis enough times that your body stopped waiting for your brain a long time ago. You step into the corridor. 2 guards are already outside your door. Faces forward. Eyes refusing to find yours. Guards in this building are trained to hold eye contact. It signals control. When they look away, it means they already know what is at the end of that hall. You follow them anyway. The corridor runs under fluorescent lights that hum low and steady. No windows. No outside sound. Just your shoes on sealed concrete and the weight of whatever is waiting. Hi viewers, if guards showed up at your door at 2 a.m. with zero explanation, would you follow them or would you find a reason to disappear? Drop your honest answer in the comments right now. The medical wing doors open. Protector General Cairo Demba is lying beneath surgical lights so bright the room looks like an operating theater. His face is on the currency. His voice is on state radio every morning at 7. His decisions move armies. Right now his left pupil is larger than his right. You move. Airway. Cardiac monitor. Blood pressure. Your hands work through the steps until the numbers stabilize and you allow yourself exactly 1 exhale. Then you turn to the medication tray. Protocol. You always verify after a stabilization event. The 3rd vial from the left stops you cold. Same label. Same color. Same careful placement. Different serial number. You read it twice. 3 times. The number does not change. Standing in that room with the most powerful man in the country breathing steadily behind you. 3 possibilities form. Clean and cold as a diagnosis. Someone inside this palace just tried to kill Cairo Demba. The Protector General is running a loyalty test inside his own circle. Or you were brought here specifically to be the one who found it. In this building, getting that answer wrong is not a career-ending mistake. It is the last mistake you ever make. The door seals behind the last security officer and the room goes quiet. You are still holding the vial. Your mind runs the problem, methodically, no visible emotion, because in this palace, panic is not just a weakness. It is a target. You set the vial down exactly where you found it. Do not flag it. Do not call it in. Not yet. The first thing you learned when you arrived at the Presidential Medical Directorate is this. The person who raises an alarm becomes part of the alarm. You need to understand what you are holding before you let anyone else see you hold it. 3 years ago, you were a trauma surgeon at Meridian General. Long shifts, thin supplies, steady hands under pressure, precise when everything around you was moving too fast. That specific combination is what brought a quiet man named Aldrich Voss into your office on a Wednesday afternoon without knocking. He sat across from your desk without introducing himself, looked at you for a moment that stretched past comfortable, then asked one question. How well do you handle things that never get written down? 2 weeks later, you were transferred to a building with no public address and a clearance level that does not appear on any official government roster. Your title is Chief Medical Officer of the Presidential Directorate. Your actual job is to make sure Cairo Demba never looks like anything other than what this country needs him to be. The public sees iron. A man who stands at podiums for 2 hours without shifting his weight, who fills a room with authority before he says a single word. What the public does not see is the compound you prepare 90 minutes before every major speech. The protocol hiding the damage in his left knee during military inspections. The sleep medication adjusted every 3 weeks because his body builds tolerance faster than most. 6 people in this country hold the full truth about his body. You are one of them, which is why the switched vial is not just a security breach. It is a message, because whoever placed it there did not climb any walls, did not breach any external checkpoint. They knew the tray layout, the medication schedule, the exact vial position on an emergency cart that only rolls into this room under specific conditions. The enemy already has a badge, and right now they are somewhere in this building waiting to see what you do with what you just found. You go back to the pharmacy at 4:47 in the morning through the cleaning staff corridor, moving at the pace of someone who belongs here. In this building, hesitation reads like guilt, and guilt reads like a confession. You pull the biometric chain records first. Every vial in the Palace system is logged 3 times. Fingerprint at intake, packaging, and cart loading, with timestamps synced automatically to the central security database. Last night's records are clean. Every entry present. Every signature confirmed. Every timestamp in sequence. According to the system, the tray was prepared correctly and transferred to the emergency cart at 11:52 p.m. You sit with that. Because a clean record after a switched vial means either someone erased themselves from the system completely, or someone who controls the system did the erasing for them. Those are 2 different problems that lead to 2 very different people. The night pharmacist is restocking the lower cabinet when you walk in. Her name is Zoya Bassett, mid-40s, close-cropped natural hair starting to gray at the edges, hands moving through the shelves from memory. She has worked here longer than you, long enough to survive 2 medical chiefs, 1 full security restructuring, and a staff purge that cleared 4 senior employees in a single week. People who outlast things like that in a place like this are not lucky. They are careful in a way that most people never have to develop. You set the serial number on the counter without a word. She looks at it, does not touch it. Her hands pause on the shelf. That batch is from the Vorek military facility, she says quietly. Restricted classification. Nothing from Vorek enters here without a signed transfer authorization from Security Command. Who signed the transfer? She sets down what she is holding. Slowly, both hands, then says a name barely above a breath. Commander Tarek Osei, Chief of Palace Security. The man whose entire function is to make sure nothing unauthorized ever reaches Cairo Demba. The air changes. Because you are holding one of 2 things, and either one is enough to destroy everyone standing near it. Either the head of security tried to poison the Protector General, or someone just placed Tarek Osei's name on the most carefully constructed frame this palace has ever seen. And you are the one who just picked it up. Cairo Demba wakes at 6:18 in the morning and looks directly at you. Not the monitors. Not the officers at the foot of the bed. You. Eyes fully alert. The focus of a man whose body is still recovering, but whose mind never stopped. Tell me, he says. 2 words. No warm-up. You choose your answer the way you choose a surgical incision. As small as possible, placed exactly where it needs to land. You are stable, sir. But there was an irregularity in the medication chain last night that requires your attention. He holds eye contact for 3 full seconds. Handle it. You file the preliminary incident report by 7:30 a.m. By 9 o'clock, the palace is a different building. New checkpoints in corridors that have never had them. Internal communications locked to encrypted-only channels. The morning briefing delayed 40 minutes without explanation. 3 department heads pulled from their offices for what the official notice calls routine procedural reviews. Nobody uses that phrase twice. Fear in a palace does not look like fear anywhere else. It does not make people loud or reactive. It makes them precise. It sharpens every small decision. Who to stand near, which hallway to take, how long to hold eye contact, into something that feels like it could be reviewed later by someone with a reason to look. Cairo Demba calls you to his private suite at noon. He asks 3 questions in sequence. Who had physical access to the emergency cart? Who handled the pharmacy transfer? Who would have known the exact timing of last night's call? You answer each one completely, because incomplete answers in this room are their own form of accusation. He nods once, then says nothing. By 4 p.m., Commander Tarek Osei arrives for what the calendar lists as a routine debrief. He does not come back out. 2 other senior staff members are placed on administrative restriction before dinner. An intelligence officer present in every morning briefing for 2 years is simply missing from the evening report list. No announcement, no explanation, just a name that existed yesterday and does not exist today. You sit in the medical wing at midnight with a chart showing a pulse now steady and strong. And one thought stays with you. The poisoning attempt failed. But the chaos it started is moving through this palace exactly the way someone intended. Which means whoever switched that vial already got exactly what they came for. The palace reorganizes itself around you, and you do not ask it to. No announcement. No new title. It happens through repetition, one man's preference becoming a fact that everyone around him quietly adjusts to. Cairo Demba requests you by name. Not the senior team. Not the rotation. You. Only your hands touch the morning assessment. Only your signature clears the medication schedule. Only your briefing precedes his public appearances. By the third time, the palace has already adjusted. Minister Jabari Hollins, who spent 6 months barely acknowledging your existence, now shifts his body toward you when you enter a room. General Adiz Moro, who has never needed to be polite to doctors, nods at you Thursday morning like she is making a record of it. They are not warming to you. They are updating their math. Proximity to the one person the leader cannot lose is its own kind of currency in this building. And right now you are holding more of it than anyone expected. You start catching details that were always there. A supply request filed under a batch code matching no standard protocol. An access log entry timestamped 3:17 a.m. linked to a biometric signature from an officer listed as off-site. An internal memo routed to 7 recipients, 6 you know by name, and 1 whose name you have never seen attached to any official role in this building. Every thread runs back to the pharmacy, back to Zoya Bassett. You find her Tuesday afternoon during inventory. The moment the door latch closes behind you, something in her posture shifts, shoulders pulling inward, hands stopping their motion for 2 full seconds before resuming. You know the difference between guilt and fear. Guilt watches the exits, calculates your next move. Fear is already living inside a consequence it cannot escape. Zoya is afraid of something that has been happening to her long before last night. Who has something on you, you ask. The question drops into the room. She sets the clipboard down on the counter. Both hands. Controlled. The motion of someone who needs their hands free because holding anything right now feels dangerous. And in that silence you understand that you have been reading this situation from the wrong angle. The switched vial was never a failed assassination. It was an opening move. Something that required a pharmacist who knew the system from the inside, and a doctor trusted enough to be the one who found the vial and started pulling the threads. Something that needed you in exactly this position. The question is not what happened. It is who built this, and how long they have been watching you walk toward this exact moment. Zoya tells you the truth on a Thursday evening when the pharmacy is empty and there is nowhere left for her to go. Not because she trusts you, because she has run out of room. Her son's name is Deshaun, 17 years old, enrolled at the Harlan State Boarding School 40 minutes from the capital. 8 weeks ago, he was transferred without warning. No phone call, no written notice, just an administrative update in the school portal moving him to a residential program whose address does not appear in any government education database she can find. She has not spoken to him since, but every few days, instructions arrive for her. Not by phone, not by name. Folded inside routine supply orders that come through normal channels, written in language that looks like inventory notes to anyone who does not know what they are reading. Prepare this batch on the overnight schedule. Delay the 4 a.m. transfer by 6 hours. Sign the intake form with the secondary authorization code. There are no threats attached to any of them. There do not need to be. She knows what happens to people who stop cooperating. The people giving the instructions know she knows. That shared understanding is the entire architecture of the arrangement. Now the switched vial finally makes sense. The goal was never to kill Cairo Demba. A dead dictator creates a vacuum. Unpredictable, uncontrollable, dangerous to everyone who helped create it. That is not what someone with this kind of patience is building toward. The goal was to destabilize him, to make the most paranoid man in the country believe that the people standing closest to him were moving against him, to plant that suspicion carefully, water it with just enough evidence to feel real, and then step back and watch what a frightened dictator does to his own inner circle. Because when powerful men become afraid, they do not wait. They strike first. And what you have been watching unfold in this palace, the investigations, the arrests, the silent disappearances from meeting lists, is not chaos. It is a purge being conducted by the one man in this country with the authority to conduct it. Someone outside these walls just handed Cairo Demba a list of enemies, and he is working through it. You still do not know whose hand wrote the list, but you know one thing with complete certainty now. You are already on a page in this somewhere, and you have not yet found the one that has your name on it. You make a decision that no medical school anywhere ever prepared you for. You protect her, not out of warmth, not out of any particular feeling about Zoya Bassett as a person, out of the only logic that survives inside a palace moving this fast. She is the only live source you have inside the system being used against the system. And burning a source before you understand the full shape of what they know is the kind of mistake that closes every door behind it. So instead of reporting what she told you, you begin working with what she has. The arrangement happens without either of you naming it out loud. She knows what she has been forced to carry. You know how the investigation is moving and which direction the suspicion is currently pointing. Together, without a single direct conversation about what you are doing, you begin placing information into the palace's circulation the way a careful hand places a stone, not to build something, but to redirect a current that is already moving. You are not inventing anything. You are arranging what is already true. A medication ordering pattern from one faction of the security apparatus surfaces in a supply chain report at the exact moment that faction is already under review. A pharmacy transfer tied to a ministry under investigation gets flagged during a routine audit in a way that confirms what investigators suspected but could not document. A missing inventory notation raises a question no one can cleanly answer without admitting things no one in this palace is ready to admit. Cairo Demba is a man who has spent 30 years turning suspicion into an instrument of governance. He begins seeing patterns, and the patterns are real. You have only adjusted the angle of the light falling on them. 3 more officials disappear from the briefing calendar inside 2 weeks. A deputy minister requests immediate medical transfer, an arrangement you process quietly, understanding that medical transfer is the polite language for a man who has decided the mathematics of staying no longer work in his favor. The palace becomes quieter each week, more deliberate, more carefully obedient. And through all of it you stand in his private suite every morning with a calm voice and a medical report. Because the one thing Cairo Demba cannot afford to doubt right now is his own physician. But paranoia does not stop when the original targets are gone. It finds new ones. And the longer it runs, the closer those targets get to the person standing nearest to the man who started it. Within 2 months, the palace is no longer recognizable as the place you walked into 3 years ago. 3 senior officials are formally arrested. Their names disappear from distribution lists before the announcements are made. The palace's way of erasing a person from the record before erasing them from the room. 2 intelligence officers vanish during what the official log describes as a routine internal transfer. No destination listed. No paperwork trail that resolves anywhere useful. Commander Tariq Osei, whose name Zoya whispered in the pharmacy on that first morning, is officially reassigned to a regional security command in the Eastern District. No one in this building believes that. No one says so. Cairo Demba gets quieter. Not the quiet of a man who is settling down. The quiet of a man who is concentrating harder. His questions to you sharpen. He asks about medications with new specificity, wanting to understand the reasoning behind decisions that he previously accepted without comment. He watches your hands while you work, not with distrust, but with the particular attention of a man who has survived this long by treating observation as its own form of protection. He is measuring people now, not with instruments, with hesitation, the fraction of a second before an answer, the direction a person's eyes move when a hard question enters the room, who laughs at what, and who has stopped laughing entirely. And while the palace fractures around you, something strange and uncomfortable happens to your position inside it. It expands. While ministers are walked out, your clearance deepens. While generals recalculate their standing, you are called into rooms you have never entered before, because there is one resource Cairo Demba cannot restrict during internal chaos. His body. Every speech that must project stability. Every military inspection requiring 60 unbroken minutes of composure. Every broadcast where a nation must look at their leader and believe nothing has changed. You are necessary. And necessity inside this palace is the most durable form of protection that exists. There is a question forming in the quiet hours, late at night in the medical wing, monitors running their steady graphs, that you cannot push away. What if the poisoning attempt was never meant to remove Cairo Demba? What if the real goal was to make him stronger, to strip away the people around him who could not be fully controlled, using his own paranoia as the instrument, leaving behind only the obedient and the carefully selected? If that is true, then someone outside these walls just used the most powerful man in the country to clean house for them. And you helped. The answer arrives on a Wednesday evening during a routine consultation, in a room so quiet you can hear the city breathing beyond the walls. You are checking his pulse. His wrist is in your hand. You are counting. He speaks without turning his head. Interesting, Cairo Demba says. How quickly the disloyal ones reveal themselves when the conditions are right. Your fingers stay on his wrist. Your count continues. But something in your mind stops completely. Because in the space of that single sentence, the last 2 months reassemble themselves into a shape you should have seen earlier, and could not, because you were standing too close to it. The switched vial had been placed where you would find it. The evidence pointing to Tariq Osei had been constructed just precisely enough to feel discovered rather than planted. Not so perfect that no one would question it, but exact enough that a physician with full access and a reason to look would follow the thread exactly as far as it was laid. Zoya's instructions had been delivered through a channel designed to be exposed. Not immediately, not obviously, only by someone with the right clearance and the right reason to go looking in the right places at the right time. The paranoia had moved through the palace at exactly the velocity required to reach the people it was always meant to reach, and stopped just short of the ones it was not. This was not chaos that someone took advantage of. This was a controlled procedure, and Cairo Demba had been running it. You understand now, with the specific cold clarity of a diagnosis that arrives too late to change the treatment, what your role in all of it was. You did not navigate the crisis. You were the instrument it required. The physician trusted enough to find the vial. Trusted enough to surface the right information. Trusted enough to be in the rooms where the decisions were made, carrying reports that looked like medicine and functioned like intelligence. Every careful truth you arranged, every suspicion you directed, every piece of information you allowed to circulate in the right direction. You were not steering the purge. You were conducting it on behalf of a man who needed his hands to stay clean. The palace is quieter now than it has been in years. More compliant, more loyal, more precisely organized around one center of gravity. You press 2 fingers to his wrist and record the number in the chart. Pulse is steady, strong, exactly as it should be. And in the silence of that room, you understand something that sits in your chest like a stone. You have never been safer in this palace, and you have never been more completely trapped inside it. You are the personal physician to the most powerful man in the country. Your biometric signature controls access to the medical wing. Your authorization is required before any substance crosses into his body. Your voice, delivered at the right moment to the right person, can delay a national broadcast cancel a military briefing, reschedule a meeting between men who command thousands. Ministers choose their words carefully around you. Generals greet you by name, not because they like you, because they have done the arithmetic and the answer is always the same. The person that Cairo Demba cannot replace is the person you cannot afford to offend. You have power. You have access. You have the kind of protection that most people inside this palace spend entire careers positioning for and never reach. And you understand something that none of them do. None of it belongs to you. It belongs to how useful you remain. Power at this level is not a position. It is a function. The moment the function changes, the moment someone else can be trusted with the same access, trained to the same standard, made indispensable in the same ways, everything that feels like protection becomes, in a single decision by a single man, the opposite of protection. Because dictators fear two things above everything else: illness, and the people who know the full truth about the illness. Which means the 6 people in this country who hold the real information about Cairo Demba's body are not trusted insiders. They are debts that have not yet been called due. And every time you sit alone in the medical wing at 3 a.m. and understand that clearly, really understand it, in the specific stillness of a building that never fully sleeps, you run the same inventory. Have you become too valuable to remove, or too knowledgeable to keep? The emergency phone sits on the metal table beside your bed every night. You know the pattern of a routine call by now. You know the weight of 2:13 in the morning. And every day you wake up in a palace you did not choose, serving a man you cannot leave, knowing a truth that could end you, performing a job that keeps you alive precisely because you perform it well enough that you are needed, and not quite well enough that you are ever fully trusted. The most powerful position in a dictatorship is not the general, not the minister, not the spy. It is the person who controls the leader's heartbeat. And the cruelest part of that position is something no one tells you when you take it. The heartbeat they are really monitoring is their own.